Hey guys, this is Insurance and Finance Live, not from the new headquarters of Digital Scouting in Hamburg, Germany, but from a secret location. Not a secret is our special guest from today, Malte Dummel, COO and CFO of Xempus. Thank you very much for being here today.
Thanks a lot for having me.
And thank you very much for people actually waiting in line to watch the show, like Dwinka on YouTube. We all see you out there on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, Twitter. Please make sure to hit the follow, the share, the like button, and leave a comment. And if it's only for the algorithm when you say hi, that helps us a lot. So thank you very much. But let's go to what you can expect today. We will talk about life insurance, about pension schemes, about how as a broker and agent you can sell this thing 3 times more. But let's start with my daughter. Malte, could you explain to my 4-year-old daughter what Xempus is?
Well, Robin, we're not in the business of scaring little children, but let me give it a go. Basically, you might say, sweetheart, today we live in a fantastic house. We have a lot of food. We have a lot of toys because this digital scouting is just going through the roof. But there might come a time in the future when daddy is a bit older, or possibly when daddy has some other health issues or the like, when we want to make sure we're still looked after, and we want to make sure we still get to live in this nice house, and we still have enough food, and we still have enough toys. And the good people like Xempus help us make sure that is the case.
But how do you do it concretely, and what do you actually offer?
So maybe now I explain it at the level for your wife, if that's okay. So essentially,
smarter than I am, so don't do too complex.
What we do is we run what we call a SaaS-enabled marketplace. So, wow, let's digest that. Essentially, we help the people who need to buy pension and life insurance products, and these are typically individuals or, in our case, small companies. Connect these guys with the people who know a lot about it, so the insurance agents, and the people who actually provide the product, so the life insurance carriers in Germany. And by connecting all 3 of them, we help people find the right protection for their retirement or disability or health issues.
And how did it work before you guys? So what was how did it work before, and what do you solve there? Wasn't there a platform before? How was the world before Xempus?
So what's our biggest competition? It's probably pen and paper. So in the olden days, exactly, that's the competition right there. In the olden days, you would have lots of small and medium-sized companies and their employees who either by law or because it's the right thing to do, want to purchase pension policies or life insurance policies, or a combination of the two. And in order to find the right product, in order to then make sure that if there are any changes to these policies, they would typically either send a fax or a letter to their life insurance carrier. And they would typically be helped by some agent who would come visit them in their offices in the middle of nowhere. And try and convince them that this is the right thing to do. And what you tend to find, if you compete with pen and paper, you tend to win hands down if you do it right. So what we tend to do through the platform is we give these SME corporates and their employees very neat little tools where they can see all their policies in one place, where they can make purchasing decisions in a very intuitive way. It works a bit like online banking, just for your pension and life insurance. And if you can use online banking, you're going to be fine with it. Cool. And then we bring in the insurance agents. They get neat little tools for us that allow them to do advisory sessions with these corporates and their employees and help them find the right solution. And at the end of the day, you have the insurance carriers who essentially connect to our platform via APIs, and then they get the business and the digital communication that comes out of this.
Super interesting. So it's a little bit like an aggregator and a platform for pension schemes and life insurance in a more complex environment. Super interesting to see. My big question to you is, you have also had some funding rounds, and your platform isn't 2 days old, but it's a little bit older and bigger. Could you share some core numbers of Xempus, and feel free also to share some secrets that you probably know as CFO and COO?
Exactly. That's typically what we tend to do within the first few minutes of these conversations. No, seriously. Xempus, or as it was previously known, XBAV, the clue to the renaming is in the difficulty of pronouncing that outside of Germany, is basically been around in its current form since 2015, so about 5-6 years. We are 150 people working in Munich, Berlin, and Saarbrücken, where we once bought a company. It's the most productive town where you can have an IT engineering department. And we are what I guess is probably called a scale-up. So we did a Series C last year. We've raised about $70 million in total. And we are, broadly speaking, what is sort of a classic growth case, if you will. So we've got to figure out what we're doing by now. It took us a little while, but now we do. And now we're probably by a considerable margin the largest platform of its type in the life insurance space in Germany. So to give you a few numbers around that, we do about 5 billion euros worth of new business through the platform each year. So about 100 million euros worth of business each week. And we essentially connect all the leading life insurance carriers in Germany to about 16, actually as of today, 17,000 life insurance brokers or agents, and about 55,000 corporates, typically SME corporates and their employees.
There's one statistic I saw that is, wait a second, I hear myself 2 times. Sorry guys out there for the audio, it's probably my system here. I saw one number that struck my mind, and that maybe explains the popularity of your platform by brokers and salespeople out there. When they use their platform, in some cases, their revenue triples. How does that work? And what is the magic? How can you make other people increase their life insurance and pension scheme revenue 3 times?
So the short answer is by doing the right thing. And we probably should talk about what the right thing is. So most people, and I'm not going to be rude and ask about your personal situation, but statistically speaking, most people do way too little, way too late for either their own retirement saving or levels of protection against disability or any other bad things that might happen in your life. So there's a huge gap for most people. And they tend to put it off because we're talking about very long-term complex products that people rather not spend too much time thinking about. And what we've generally found, though, if you provide insurance brokers with really good tools to explain stuff properly, then all of a sudden people are much more likely to buy the right protection, also the right policies. So we tend to find the average broker will sell about 50% more of these life and pension policies after a year on the platform. And individual people save a lot more. So the number we're most proud of on the platform is that the typical person saves twice as much through the platform than they would otherwise do by just explaining stuff better. Right?
So the person invests more instead of doing 50, 100, 150 in pension. Because of the process. He says, "Oh, maybe makes 300 euros makes more sense." Do you mean that?
Exactly. So think about a situation. You're sitting down. You as Robin, hey, I've heard about the need to let's take the example of save for retirement, and all of a sudden we explain to you, for instance, if you start saving 100 euros per month, this will be your income in retirement. If you save 200, that will happen. So that's very basic. But then we do additional things. So we'll show you, okay, what happens compared to all the other sources of income. And we'll show you what happens to your payslip before and after. We make the whole thing transparent. Or we might do things like this, and we might say, hey, Robin, family fathers with one daughter, a good income in this bracket, living in Hamburg, for instance, they might do this much in terms of savings. So we make the whole very abstract thing very concrete. And all of a sudden, because pretty much everybody is doing way too little, people make the right choices. And yes, if you're an insurance carrier, if you're a broker, and you're on the platform and you participate in this ongoing flow, but it starts with helping people make the right choice.
What I really like about Xempus, if I may say, is it also has a political dimension. What does that mean? You are addressing a dramatic situation in Germany, but also in other European countries, which is the pension gap. I mean, people have in some cases a good standard of living, but if you look at the pension systems, it varies from country to country. I understand that, but especially in Germany, it's a dramatic situation. But maybe from your view, why are pension schemes so important?
Right. I might even broaden it a little bit and might say sort of private and corporate-based pension and life insurance.
Yeah.
Because there's one mega trend that we all have to deal with, which is the massive aging of most countries' populations. And there's a very simple fact that all these pay-as-you-go systems where today's generation through the state pays for today's retirees, they're just going to go into a very difficult place. They might not go bust, but the levels of provision that people will get in retirement or even before retirement are going to be massively lower. And just mathematically, the only way to deal with that is putting aside every month a little bit. And to give you one number that I personally find astonishing, Germany is way, way, way behind lots of other nations. It's a global problem, but just for the German case, we would have to save 5 times as much as we do today to catch up even to the average across the OECD. So Germany is probably the outlier in terms of how bad it is, but it's a problem that's prevalent across Europe, across some of the developed Asian nations and North America. So it's a huge issue.
Oh, you said some interesting words there, the Asian nations and the US there. I could ask now if that's how internationalization is going, but I don't because I don't because let's talk a little bit more about the dramatic situation here. Then, if the German average German lacks to save 80%. No, how much is it? 75%, no, 80%. He should invest five times more than he actually invests. It's dramatic because at some point you cannot catch up, and then it makes sense when you have a platform that illustrates actually and makes it illustrative for the people in the consulting situation. That then the people then invest more. Makes sense there. But yeah, I think pension. It's I think one of the most underrated. Probably most emotional things we as insurers could talk about, because it's about the future, it's about the life, and about, if you look at the numbers, it's dramatic what people are, how big the gap is. And we're talking about people needing to leave their houses, people that cannot afford nice things when they are in pension, in contrast to the pensionaries today. So I think that's something, it's dramatic. So thank you very much for that. Big question is, do you see any customer behavior changing here?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think part of our very significant growth we've been seeing not only during the pandemic, but also before, is essentially because we all as individuals nowadays have very different expectations for how to interact with businesses, including insurers. So just think about e-commerce or travel. The way we do things now is very different from what it was 10 years ago. And we find these heightened customer expectations just spilling over into the world of life insurance. And as a result, expectations are rising. I mean, one of the studies that you may be familiar with is one that's being put out by the consultancy Bain that shows that on average, the net promoter score, as in the answer to the question, would you recommend your life insurer to a friend or colleague, is no! It's negative across the German industry. might be a variety of reasons for that, but one of the critical ones is most carriers struggle to effectively communicate and frequently communicate with their end customers. And one of the things we can do as a platform is help with that. Our NPS is 71.
That's amazing. That's a lot.
That's quite a bit higher. And we're not doing anything fundamentally different than other people. We're just constantly interacting with these users. And that we think is critical. To give you one, if I may, just give you one example of a very specific case. So we have a broker number one. So that's one guy who's been around for a couple of years. He specializes in advising on pension and life insurance in the context of SME corporates or consumers. A couple of years ago, we just fully equipped him with all our technology. So all he does now essentially is do the same thing as he did before, but just using it in a sort of tech-enabled manner. A couple of years ago, he was doing about 200,000 per annum in terms of commission revenue. He's doing 800,000 now. And he's not doing anything different.
I have a funny feeling that you get invited to his Christmas party every year now.
We tend to have a good relationship. That's true, but we actually invite him to our Christmas party.
Okay.
That's the kind of people we are.
Very cool, very cool. No, I want to add the thing about the low net promoter score. I always tend to say when people complain about that, then let's have a look at let's Google the term pension, life insurance, and have a look at the websites of our industry, and they're horrible. We currently have a project where we look at that, and it's really horrible. It's mixed, it's complex. You see a lot of stock photos. God, if I would get €1 for every stock photo on an insurance homepage, I would be very rich by now. And another topic I think is we also have very bad products sometimes. I mean, we look into the child insurance space, which is there are also life insurance things there. And I mean, there are products where you get 0.35% in the first year. It's ridiculous. So I think we also have a product problem. Do you see that too, or do you see innovation in that space somewhere when it comes to products?
We do, and we think there's some fantastic products being developed every day. Yeah. What we tend to find, though, actually, in the pension and life insurance space, process tends to beat product hands down. As in, a lot of the end customers, a lot of the SME corporates we deal with, they first need to be made aware of the problem they have. They need to understand how they can deal with it. And they need to then be generally made willing to deal with it. So about 80% of the, if you will, value creation in that scenario happens before there's any talk of any specific product or any brand of insurer that's out there. And then you essentially, once you have the general qualified interest in buying some type of policy, then it's a conversation about which insurer is the provider of choice, which actually we don't make. We're not a broker. We're just your friendly neighborhood tech provider.
I think a lot of sales C-suits in the insurance industry really like what you're saying there. But big question, let's talk about really like trends in the industry, because you're not only deep into tech, into the German and in the international corporate pensions schemes or life insurance business, but you have like a really like also like a overall view of the industry. Really, you also have a lot of insurance experts in your company, of course, and you're one yourself. What kind of trends do you see in the industry and in the InsurTech space?
Sure. We tend to have a possibly slightly contrarian view on where the industry might go, at least compared to some of the very overhyped, sometimes overhyped trends we tend to see at some of these conferences and like. We tend to believe that pension and life insurance is a bit different from what we see in the classic property and casualty space, in that when you think real hard about what it is we're insuring here and what a claims process might look like, it is very different. So think about a scenario where you can't work anymore, you're retired, or somebody, you lost a leg, you need to make a claim on your disability insurance. It's really not the scenario where you want to go through some sort of chatbot experience the same way you might be happy to do that with a car insurance. And similarly, when you think about the purchasing process, you're making a decision about a product that tends to be quite complex, and it's a 30, 40, 50-year decision, right? So I'm starting to save now. I'm kind of locked into something for the very long term. Again, it's very different from other types of insurance products where you're going to renew, and you might renew differently next year. And in that context, trust is extremely important, and the human touch. You want to have the option. You don't always need to use it, but you want to have the option to look a human being in the eye and say, okay, Robin, this is the right decision for you, your daughter, your wife, everybody that matters to you. And as a result, when we think about sort of the long-term vision for how these incredibly important products might be distributed, we tend to think the human being will have a very important role, but the human being might turn into a bit of a cyborg. Sorry?
What do you mean with that?
Yeah, that should probably be explained, right?
Like,
so it is when we think about the broker of the future, we tend to think of cyborgs in the sense that a lot of the, call it pre-sales process, so it's all the lead generation, the qualification, a lot of the advisory work can happen in an automated digital fashion, and guess what? We have a great solution for that. But you always have the option to speak to a real human being if you need it to make the final decision. And similarly, when it comes to the claims process in pension and life insurance, a lot of that can be done in a very digital manner, but it's, in the critical situations, there's a sort of enhanced human being that's going to help you out and really sort out your problem, as opposed to some app where you take pictures of your missing leg.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I think that's super interesting. Yeah, in the end, I think it's all about, it sounds very, very cheesy, but it's all about, fulfilling customer desire, having a smooth process, doing the right thing for the client. It sounds totally cheesy, but in the end, it's all about that. And I think sometimes we in the insurance industry, we are a little bit too shy to actually underline what we're actually doing for society. What you guys are doing in whole parts of the value chain and pension and life insurance is actually solving a very large political and societal problem. Stabilizing society. If people have a few $100 more or less, can make all the difference, or thousands of euros can all make the difference, and also to educate the people to invest more, and to not have one cookie now, to have two cookies later, or to have at least a cookie at all, makes all the difference. If we look into the future, you have already had an impressive rodeo right now, with all the numbers, with the funding, with the really KPIs achieved, 55,000 employers, 16,000 agents, 17,000 since today, 6 billion. That billion is like a million with a B and a lot of zeros more. 6 billion new business each year, written via your platform. I think that's super impressive. But where will the road go? Where will you be? Where will Xempus be in 10 years?
Sure. There's probably a top-down way of looking at this. So the global pension and life insurance market is about 2,500 billion euros per annum. So even bigger. So we'll probably be okay with about 10% market share of that.
Very good.
Seriously, think big. We are still, we're by a considerable margin the market leader in Germany today, but we only have about a 1% market share of the German market. So take that to a 10% or more, and you have a very attractive German business. If you will rinse and repeat and take this on the European market, where there's similar challenges. So the sort of markets that we like, the sort of challenges that we like are not specific to Germany, right? Getting people to make the right decision about their pension and life insurance is a huge issue. So we'd like to do it across Europe. And then ultimately, I know we chatted about this in before the show. I do like traveling to the US, so we definitely need an office there at some point too.
All right. I think a lot of friends currently at InsurTech Connect in Las Vegas. Hopefully they listen to it, or maybe it's a little bit early, isn't it? Like in the morning there. There are also a lot of cool life insurance InsurTechs and scale ups currently in the US, and also some cool life insurers. I hope they will give you a warm welcome then, and we'll visit you in your US office too, because I also like to tend to travel to the US. But when we are thinking about a new office, I'm looking east currently, but I won't share too much. Malte, thank you very much for being here, for joining us today. You now shared your concrete ideas and insights. Is there one thing the community can do for you?
I think spread the word is always helpful. My personal opinion is one of the reasons that I think a lot of the life insurance carriers like our platform so much, at least in Germany, is because you don't always need to be the loudest. Go for good execution and having a good product and a good solution that people really do need. I mean, that's the thing. I sometimes feel like as an industry across life insurance, we have some super important critical products of which people use way too little, and we don't always get the word out. And arguably, we could be a bit more forthcoming, a bit more forthright about that, because whenever we have people coming in interviewing at Xempus, and we're hiring a lot of people, once they've figured out what we're dealing with, this whole pension life insurance, and how huge an issue it is, they're absolutely blown away. And this is not us, this is an entire industry. I think we could be a bit bolder about how good at an industry we are.
Malte, thank you very much for being here.
Thank you for having me.